Hi, I'm Christine Krieger's husband. If you don't know me by that moniker, I also am a teacher in Kids Creek, so your kids might point me out sometimes. And then other than that, I'm David Krieger, for those of you that don't know me by either one of those. Pastor Joel asked me to talk to you a little bit about foster care and what foster care has meant in my life and my family's life. When I got married just about almost 4 years ago now, my wife had said that, we talked about kids and whether we would have kids or not. We weren't sure, we didn't know, we were older, so the Lord may not bless us with a child of our own through the old-fashioned way. But we also knew that foster care was an option and adoption was a possibility as well. My wife's mom was a foster child. We also had friends in the church that were foster parents. I'm not going to talk to you about the things such as how many kids are in foster care or the statistics of if everybody takes one child. I don't know that stuff. What I know is what it's meant in my family and in my home and to the people around me. We started off in foster care in April of 2011. We had a placement of 2 children while I was on a business trip. That I understand that happens quite a bit. The first 2 boys. So I came home from my trip a little bit early, and these kids were great. They were just tons of fun. One of those kids, he left our home pretty quick to live with his aunt. The other one, he was hard. He was a tough kid, and but because of him, I've had such a great opportunity to tell people about Christ and what Christ is doing and how God's working. One of my favorite things is when I go on a business trip. You sit down and I talk to everyone. You just ask my wife. I will talk to everyone without a problem. So every time I'd go on a business trip, I'll be sitting in a plane or just start chatting with the person next to me. And invariably the conversation will turn to, oh, do you have kids? Yeah, well, they'll tell me about their kids, and then they'll say, do you have kids? And I'll say, yeah, my wife and I do foster care. And almost without exception, the next response is, oh, that's amazing, you're awesome. Now, if I know you and you say that to me, I will immediately respond with, yes, I am. If I don't know you, such as in a plane, I'll tell them, no, really, I'm not all that great. It's hard, and I mess it up. I mess it up a lot. But let me tell you about my kids and the amazing things that God's doing in their lives. Because my wife and I are Christians, you see, and we get to watch what He's doing. Our first boy, sorry, already I didn't expect that to happen so quick, but our first son that was with us, well, as I said, he was hard. He left for a little while. We had some behavioral issues. He had to go get some extra care. We weren't sure he was coming back to our home at all. Because, I had a spot in my heart that was just tugging at me, and I had to convince Christine that we really needed to take him back. But we had to wait and see what was happening, and rely on the Lord, and wait for what He was going to do. After about 30 days, Devin came home, and he was with us, and he came home just as mean as he was before he left. And that was a problem. So he's home about 2 weeks. I go on a business trip. I'm in Germany. I had told him before I left, don't mess this up. Make sure you listen. Make sure you behave. You got it? Absolutely. Going to be perfect. Don't you worry. So I called the next day. Talked to Christine. It's Monday morning, first day of Vacation Bible School. I said, how's it going? Well, let me tell you about my day. I'm like, oh no. She starts off with the explanation of, yeah, he wasn't listening. So I told him he was on his own to get his breakfast. That's one of our rules. If you're not going to listen, you do it yourself. So I'm going upstairs to get ready, she said to him. She goes in our room, locks the door, gets ready, starts getting ready for the day. And there he is banging on the door saying, get your butt out here and make my breakfast. Now, I don't know how many of you parents would react to an 11-year-old or 12-year-old saying that to you, but I know what my response would have been had I been home. So I talked to her. I said, well, can you handle it till I get back, or do you need to call our worker and tell him to take him? That it's just not going to work. She said, I'll wait. Let's give it some time. I said, all right. So the next day I call. How's it going? Well, let me tell you about my day. And my heart dropped. I'm like, oh, not again. She says, well, yesterday we got home from our time at a Vacation Bible School, and the it had gone pretty well. He was working with other people. I stayed away from him. He got home. So I called my wife on the second day during my trip, and I said, how's it going? And she says, well, let me tell you about my day. My heart dropped. I was so afraid of what had happened that day. And she says, we did Vacation Bible School. He was on his own. He went and he was working with some other people. I didn't worry about him. He was away from me. My day was fine. We got home and he did something and it just looked like an evil shadow came over him. And I was like, oh my. So I said something to him. And a little while later, he had thought about stuff and he says, I don't like how I am. I want to change. And at that time, he accepted Christ as his Lord and Savior. And again, I'm away. I was thrilled to death to hear this. I was sorry I wasn't there and I missed it, but I was thrilled. And I got home and this kid's different. He has a different demeanor. He has a different face. It was amazing. I've never seen anything like it. I've heard stories about how people are healed or about how they change instantly when God works in their lives. And here this kid, he turned 180 degrees. He went home to visit with his family. They didn't know who he was. He was the kid they all hated having around. Now they're what do we do with Devin? He's okay. So that was the first one that came to know the Lord. Justin later came to know the Lord. Another funny story that ask me and I'll tell you about it. He had seen a bumper sticker and then he didn't sleep one night because of it, and I'll share that with you. But all in all, we've had 8 kids in our home. 5 have come to know the Lord. Isaiah, who we've adopted now, he came to know the Lord, and then Francois, he accepted Christ as his Savior about a week after he lived with us. And Juan, who was just temporarily, he was with us for a short period of time, he accepted Christ as well. Many of you have seen our kids, you know them. Say hi to them, ask them about their story. One of the, as I said, we've had 5 of our 9 children come to know the Lord in the time they've lived with us, and that's not us doing anything. Trust me, I am a firm believer that I mess up this process more than I get it right. I truly believe, and I tell my kids this, I get it wrong most of the time. All I can do is pray, and pray regularly that God will take the things that I goof up and the things I get wrong and turn them to His good. That's what I tell my kids. And when I get upset with them and I yell at them, or when just something goes wrong, or when I say the wrong thing, I just pray and I tell them, God can take care of it. He'll fix that stuff. It's all I can rely upon, because I know I'm imperfect. And that's what I tell people on these plane trips and these business trips that I go on. It is a great opening for me to be able to talk to them about what the Lord's doing. One of the greatest blessings we've had was one of our three kids that lived with us. They were all in one family. They were only with us for about a month and a half. They were the ones my wife prayed for after Devin and Justin. They had been tough, and my wife had prayed, boy, Lord, give us kids that are easy. And He did. And these kids were great, but I was it's going to be a short time, I know it. And they were only with us a month and a half, and then we got our challenge in Isaiah. But those guys, the young man said to Christine just before he left, it really, I'm going to use his words, by the way, it really sucks that this happened and we had to leave our home and be away from our family. But you know what? Maybe God thought this was a good way for us to learn about Him. Christine and I have had opportunities to speak into the lives of the social workers we deal with. To set an example, when we took Devin and Justin home, the social worker was crying her eyes out as we prayed for these kids and dropped them off with their family. Similar thing happened when we dropped off the other 3 with their mom and their sisters. We still see them. Devin and Justin visit us. We just had the other 3 visiting with us. It gets to be a little crowded sometimes when we get 3 extra kids and we have our 2 of our own. But one of the other things I have to pray for regularly is that God would give me the ability to look at these kids and to see them and love them the way He loves them. I will tell you, Christine struggled at times. I've struggled with the idea of even them staying. Isaiah, I love him. He is awesome. He is my son. We have adopted him. But the thing is, there was a day when I didn't want him to stay in our home any longer. He was hitting me. He was hitting my wife. It was hard. And then one day I was reading, and God spoke to me, and it really hurt because I'm like, Lord, you're not telling me what I want to hear. And it was hard because I struggled as I read this. It was in Luke 17. Last year there was a whole thing about reading Luke. And I was reading and I got to 17. And there was a part in there about a millstone around the neck, and you know, if you don't take care of kids and all that. But these verses here, and Joel actually just talked on them not too long ago. It's Luke 17, verse 7 through 10. Which of you, having a slave plowing or tending sheep, will say to him when he has come in from the field, "Come immediately and sit down to eat"? But will he not say to him, "Prepare something for me to eat, and properly clothe yourself, and serve me while I eat and drink, and afterward you may eat and drink"? He does not thank the slave because he did the things which were commanded, does he? So you too, when you do all the things which are commanded, you say, "We are unworthy slaves. We have done only that which we ought to have done." And as I read that, I realized that Isaiah was staying in our home. He wasn't going anywhere. His adoption was final. December 16th. His adoption day to us, because we found out on the 17th. That's the day. He's our son. We love him. We're in the process of adopting our second son, Francois. That should be done sometime in April. We love these guys. They've been a blessing to us through all the hardships, through all the learning, through everything else. It's only by God that we're able to do it. And I'll tell you, you need to have a good support network. This church, Bell Creek Community Church, is awesome. I have so many stories I can tell and so much I could talk about, but I was talking to Pastor Dan one day and I said, you know, one of the things I'm starting to learn is I got to ask for help. He just kind of laughed at me. I said, I don't want to. We needed to support people. My mom had left. She had moved. We got 2 or 3 from this church who are now our support people, and it's just a blessing. And the funny thing was, they wanted to do it. It wasn't like, well, okay. No, they wanted to. We love this church. We love the people here. I would just ask that if you get a chance, if you have an interest in foster care, talk to Pastor Dan and Krista, their foster parents, talk to us. We can refer you. You'll get help. There's the agencies that you work with, they provide support. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. You have to advocate for the kids, but you will get support. My wife and I can help you out. We are support people for a couple of foster parents and adoptive parents, but really take the time to consider it. Consider not what you can do for these kids, because I'll tell you, it's not about that. Consider what God can do to you through the blessing that He'll provide through these children to you, because that is what it's all about.